What is up, guys? James here from the Light of Riga YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to be doing a reading for all my Gemini Sun sign friends. If you were born between the dates of May 21st and June 20th, then you are a Gemini Sun sign, and this reading is for you. Today, we're going to be doing a look at the month ahead for the month of July for Geminis, and this spread is going to take a look at the energies of the past, present, and future. It's going to tell you what you need to hold on to and let go of, what lessons you need to learn, and what obstacles are going to be in your way for the month of July. And we're going to be using the Super 8-Bit Tarot. This is a tarot deck based in the 80s video game era. It's digitized, and it's a very lovely deck that's fun and innocent and childlike, but it still gets to the root of the matter. So I would appreciate if you would just give me a moment to center myself and ask the tarot cards a question. What can Gemini sun signs expect in the month of July? Alright, that ought to do it. Cut the deck and deal them out. Alright, and we're also going to ask the Earth Magic Oracle, what message do Geminis need to know for the month of July? And this is a beautiful deck as well. I only choose beautiful decks, and we'll ask it the question, what do Geminis need to know for the month of July? And we will save this one for the end, okay? Alright, so the first thing I notice is that there are a lot of swords going on right now. A lot of sword energy moving through your lives right now. A couple of major arcana, so we'll get to those as we come to them. But the first card we're going to look at is the Eight of Swords, and this represents the energies of the past month. So the energies that you were experiencing in the month of June. And the Eight of Swords tells me that there's a lot of ego thoughts going on in your minds. For, remember guys, this is a general overall reading. Not everything's going to apply to you, but so take what you will from this. But for the most part, I'm getting the feeling that Geminis in the month of June were really in their heads with their ego thoughts. And for an example of this would be telling yourself something that might not necessarily be true, and just keep it telling it to yourself over and over again to the point where you believe it. So such and such person doesn't like me, and you get that thought in your head, for example, and then you keep reinforcing that to yourself to the point where it becomes your prison, and you imagine in your head that yes, such and such person does not like me, and you're not basing it off of anything. It's just all speculation and hearsay. So that's just one small example of the way the ego mind kind of takes over and kind of imprisons us. And I get the feeling that there was a lot of that going on in June for Geminis. A lot of overthinking things, a lot of stressing out over your thoughts and your worries and your fears. If you picture these swords, each sword is kind of like a negative thought, and this woman is kind of just encircled by all these negative thoughts, and she's in prison, and it's making her blind. She can't see the truth of the matter because of all these negative thoughts that are surrounding her. So yeah, I'm getting the feeling that June was a time of kind of just being in your head a little bit too much, Gemini friends. A little bit too much and overanalyzing the situation. As we move towards the energies of the current time, and we have the Four of Swords. And yes, I'm getting the sense now that now we're moving into a time of quiet contemplation. You're taking all those negative ego thoughts, and you're starting to analyze them, and you're starting to get a little bit more introspective and really asking yourself, is that true? Is that serving me? Which is a good thing. I think anytime that you analyze your thoughts and you really study them and see what they're doing for you, I think that's going to be beneficial for you, because it helps you to see through the veneer of negativity, see through to the reality of the situation, rather than allowing your ego thoughts to dictate what the situation is. So yes, I'm in the sense that now, Gemini friends, you guys are starting to, maybe this could literally mean meditation for some of you. If you are into meditation, I get the feeling that a lot of you are doing more meditation at this time. If you're not into meditation, then just more analyzation, self-analysis is happening at this time, is the feeling I'm getting. I think that's a positive thing. It helps you to reflect on where you've come from and where you're going. Okay, so yeah, that's what's happening now. Then this card here represents the energies of the next month, the energies of July, and we've got the Knight of Swords. So I'm seeing a very definite progression here. Whereas in the past and currently you're kind of thinking about things. Now in July it's going to be time to act on those things. So I get the feeling that in July you're going to be really acting on your thoughts and your ideas, and you're going to be putting them into motion, and you're going to be really exercising them. You're going to be expressing yourself. You're going to be putting those thoughts into motion. So the progression here is one of just analyzing thoughts, and then analyzing them to the point that you sift out the bad ones and you stick with the good ones, and then you put those good ones into practice. So I get the sense that July is going to be a month of motion as far as your thoughts go, and you're finally going to get out of the funk that your thoughts were creating and move into a more positive, productive mind state. Moving into July, so that's good. We'll go over here. This card represents what you should hold on to in the month of July. We've got the Sun. Yes, this card is talking about optimism. You should hold on to that optimism that is deep inside of you. Sometimes your ego thoughts will chip away at your optimism, and they'll form like a barrier around your optimism so it can't get out. Okay, that's like a way to think of it when you see these Circle of Swords here. But I think this card is asking you to stay positive no matter what the situation. Even if your mind is getting you down, even if the thoughts swirling around in your head are all negative, this card is asking you to stay positive and don't buy into those negative thoughts, because there's so much to be grateful for. There's so much to be optimistic about. There's just so much to just love about life. And if you're going to allow your negative thoughts to get in the way of that, then you're going to be missing out on huge opportunities. So this card is asking you to stay positive. Even when a situation you perceive as bad occurs, this card is asking you to find the light in it. Find that aspect of that negative situation that you can learn from, that you can take out and find a positive in, because there's a positive to every single situation in the world. There's always a positive aspect, and this card is asking you to always be looking for that positive aspect. So stay positive in the month of July, my friends, and it'll serve you well. This card here represents your biggest hurdles in the month of July, and we have the Lovers. Oh. I'm getting the feeling that there might be a little bit relationship strife. The Lovers represents your significant other, yes, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, but it could also represent the people who are closest to you, your best friends or your close family members, or just generally just people that you love. And I'm getting the feeling that possibly in the month of July they're going to be getting in your way a little bit. Now, I don't mean getting in the way as in like something that's horribly negative, but I just mean that they might be a cause for concern. As like I said, this is the general overall reading. It's going to be different for everybody, but a lot of the people in the lives of Geminis that they're close to, that was a weirdly constructed sentence. A lot of the people who you're close to may be causing a little bit of friction with you guys in your life, and they might cause some hurdles. I'm getting the feeling of not being open is kind of a sense I'm getting. Not being open enough with your lover, with your closest friends and family, is going to be an issue, and kind of keeping things from them might be a cause for this to happen. So this card is suggesting that maybe try to be as open as possible with your closest people in your life in the month of July, so as to avoid all these problems. You're going to be putting in action with your thoughts, and you want to make it clear to your closest people in your life what you're doing, so that there's no confusion, there's no misunderstanding. So definitely this card is saying that you need to keep an open line of communication this month, because that could be an issue with the people you're closest to. And yeah, so that is what the Lovers is saying to me. This card here represents what you should let go of for the month of July. We've got the Five of Wands. This card is telling me that you need to let go of that fighting. The Five of Wands is about conflict, and generally it's not like huge conflicts like battles, between armies, but more like arguments between friends is what this card more represents. And this card is saying that, in your quest to put your actions and your thoughts into action, not your action, in the quest to put your thoughts and ideas into action this July, you might run into some resistance from your friends or your family or your coworkers, and they're not going to completely understand what you're trying to do, and they're not going to maybe support it even if they do understand it. But this card is saying that don't allow fighting to enter into your realm. Do what you got to do. Either explain your situation better, explain where you're coming from to people better, or just ignore them completely. One of the two. But don't allow them to bring you down. Don't allow people to slow you down just because they don't agree with you or just don't understand with what you're trying to do this month. And don't let those petty squabbles stop you, because it's just going to be a road bump and it's going to slow you down a little bit from what you're trying to do if you allow other people's energies to just conflict with yours. So yeah, definitely consider if you do find yourself in any fights of some kind, whether they're verbal, I hate to say if they're physical, but generally it's going to be verbal fights or mental fights. If you find yourself in these verbal and mental fights, then just take yourself out of the situation and do what you got to do. Do what you know is right, and worry about them later. Okay, basically is the advice I'm getting from this. Okay, this last card, or not the last card, but this card down here represents the energy of the people around you for the month of July. We've got the Two of Pentacles. I get the feeling that the people around you are going to be juggling various aspects of their life, and they're not going to be 100% there for you. They're not going to 100% understand where you're coming from, because they got their own thing going on. They're juggling their own balls. They got balls in the air of their own, and if you try to throw, like, imagine a juggler. Okay, you see a juggler, he's juggling on his balls, and you come up on stage, you just throw a ball into the mix. Is he going to be able to pick it up? Is he going to be able to keep juggling without stopping? Right? Probably not. And so I guess that's kind of how your friends are going to be. They're going to be kind of busy right now, and if you throw your ball into their mix, they're going to drop everything. So I get the feeling that your support group's going to be a little bit distracted this month, and they're going to be focused on their own thing, and it's not going to be something you can depend on. Of course, this applies to the people in your life as a whole. So some people will be there for you, but generally speaking, as a whole, the people in your life are going to be kind of busy. So I wouldn't totally depend on them to help you in your endeavors when you need them. But not to say you can't call on them for help, but just keep in mind that they might not totally be there for your support. So that's something to think about. This card here represents the biggest lesson that July has for you guys, for my Gemini friends, and it is... Oh, again, the Five of Swords. Very interesting. Again, this card mirrors this card. This is more of a battle of the ego, of the mind. And this card is saying to me that no one wins. Yes, you've been in your mind this last couple months, and in July you're going to be putting forth ideas into this world, and without question, those ideas are going to be challenged by others. They're going to, ask you. They're going to get in your way, sort of, and maybe not in a malicious way, but you're going to be challenged, and there's going to be kind of some conflict because of that. And this card is asking you to remember that when you do engage in these ego battles, ego conflicts, that nobody wins. There's no victor. It's just it's a dog and pony show. It's a pissing contest where you're pissing into the wind, basically, and you're just wasting time. So I think this card is asking you to avoid these situations if at all possible, or if you do find yourself in one, try to squash it as soon as possible, because when you're in an ego battle with another person or another group of people, everyone loses, and that's the kind of the gist I'm getting from this card right now. Yeah, so keep that in mind. Let's go over this spread now that we've seen all the cards. Like I said, a lot of ego thoughts, a lot of mind. And I mean this in the Carl Jung ego, not in the Donald Trump ego. You know what I mean? But definitely thoughts, and negative thoughts are kind of the pervading thoughts of June. But I think you're moving more in towards a more introspective, more meditative state right now. But moving into July, you're going to sift through those negative thoughts. You're going to find which ones are going to be the ones that serve you. And you're finally going to put those thoughts into the action, into the world. And you're going to do something about those thoughts, which is great. But just keep in mind that there's going to be conflict when you do this. It's inevitable, okay? The way you're going to deal with this conflict is to stay positive. No matter what, stay positive. Know that you are right. If you've spent a lot of time thinking about things and meditating things and processing things. So by the time you come out of that phase and you come into the Knight of Swords phase, I think you already know what is right. So this card is asking you to stay positive, stay optimistic, even in the face of adversity. Just keep on going, keep on doing what you know to be right, because it is what you're put here to do. And you got to stay optimistic in order to get through the adversity, of which I see a lot in the month of July. The biggest hurdle is being open with the ones you love. Make sure that the people closest to you are kept up to speed. They're up to date on what you're feeling and thinking and doing, so that there's no confusion. There's no battles. You know, I get the feeling you have enough battles as it is. You don't want to alienate the ones closest to you. So keep them in your loop this month in July, and make sure that they know what's going on, so that they're on your side and they're not guessing or assuming things that could or might not be true about you. So keep them informed and up to date. Do away with all this fighting. Don't allow fighting to enter your sphere if at all possible, because it's going to slow you down. You've already gone through all this. You've already been fighting with yourself about your ego thoughts of what you want to do right now this month. You've already fought with yourself. There's no need to fight with other people. So put that aside. Put that fighting energy aside if at all possible, and just do what you got to do. And if that means removing yourself from the situation, removing yourself from people who have their own ideas of what's going on, then that's what you got to do this month, just to get done what you want to get done. And just remember, the overall message is to just try not to fight. It's not serving anyone. It's not helping anyone. Yes, you might be right, but when you're right and you argue with a person for 3 days about who's right, and then in the end you won and you've proven you were right, you still lost, because you lost 3 days. There's 3 days that could have been avoided. You could have had back, but you spent all this time butting heads with someone who just wasn't on your wavelength. So do away with those people. Don't allow that to happen, and you'll have a smooth month in the month of July, or at least smoother. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is look at the Nature's Whispers Oracle and see what message it has for you this month in the month of July, and it is laughter. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of diversity this month. The way to get through that diversity is to laugh it off. Remember the sun. Stay optimistic like the sun. Laugh it off. Remember what it was like to be a kid, and you had an idea, and you wanted to pursue that idea. Could anyone say something that would stop you, including your parents? Absolutely not. And so this card is saying, be like a child. Remember to laugh and to look at things a little bit more lightheartedly, so that you're not so serious all the time, and you can really pursue things from the core of your heart, from the center of your being, rather than allowing the outside influences of life to deflect you from what you truly want to do. So laughter, and the best way to do that is to laugh. And even if you don't have a reason to laugh, make a reason to laugh, because it's going to keep you young, it's going to keep you energetic, and it's going to keep you full of hope and optimism. And that's what you're going to need this week, because like I said, there will be some pushback from life. Okay, so thank you for that, Geminis. I hope you got something out of that. Remember, if you want a reading from me, head on over to my Etsy shop. The link is in the cards, and we can do all sorts of readings, including this one where I tap into your specific energies and give you a more specific reading. So I'd appreciate it if you go do that. Also, if you like this video, you got something out of it, please consider leaving a like. It lets me know I'm doing something right. Please consider leaving a comment if you have any questions or anything to say about this reading, and also subscribe if you haven't already for all these videos, so you stay up to date. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me. I want to say thank you, and I appreciate you returning to these videos and supporting them and getting something out of them and interacting. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Leave a like if you enjoyed this. Happy taroting. Peace.